And I had lunch for them.
There we go.
Now
Let me know if you need anything else.
All right, everybody, welcome.
Hello.
All right, hear ye, hear ye. Everything an agent needs to know about lending. All wrapped up in one little slide presentation. So first of all, why do you need to know about lending? And number one reason is you don't want to waste your time talking to people who are not. Your time is too precious. You want to talk to as many people as you can, or people who can lead you to qualified people. But if there's somebody there who just wants to take your time, move on. And you want to determine as quickly as possible if a renter can be converted now or soon, or when. And also, clients are going to ask you for advice and opinions. So you want to be able to understand how to intelligently respond to them and sound like you know what you're talking about. And the more you do know about lending solutions, the more value you're going to have to offer, because you're going to have some ideas that they may not have thought of. They may have in their mind that they need to do things one way, or that it's an impossible situation, that it's not impossible. So you want to make sure that they feel like there's always hope. So what are people going to say to you? They're going to say things like, I'm not ready. What are the rates? I'm already working with someone. Our home value is going to come down. Well, I'm going to tell you how to answer these questions. But first, I'm going to get into some stuff. Try to get some background noise out of here as possible. Okay. So there's going to be red flags that you're going to see when you're talking to people. And one of them is that somebody's going to come to you and ask you to help them find a house. How often does that happen? That you just get a call out of the blue and say, hey, I want to buy a house, can you help me? It doesn't happen nearly enough, and it's because it's too easy. When they're coming to you and it's making it that easy for you, they're probably planning to use you, would be my guess. Other red flags, they want you to show them houses, but they don't want you to probe and ask them a lot of questions. You start asking them for more details, they either push you off or they just give you some flippant answer, and they don't really want to get into the weeds with you. Again, they're probably just trying to get you to spend some time, you know, taking them places. Yeah, touring them around. Yeah, they don't want anything. They just want you to let them show them houses. That's all they're using for. They're first-time home buyers, but they're asking about things like foreclosures and multi-units and things like that, that you know that they can't find or buy or afford or get qualified for. They think they can, you know, you get these naive people who think that they can do anything because they listen to these crazy podcasts and it sounds so easy, but. And they talk openly about their challenges. So that's, you know, that's kind of a good thing. You know, if somebody starts telling you, well, I have some concerns about my credit, or, you know, I'm not sure if I can afford that, or I haven't saved up a lot, or I don't show a lot on my income, or whatever. But if they're sharing with you openly about what their challenges are, I can guarantee you the challenges are way better than they're telling you. Because anytime you ask somebody, how's your credit? If they say my credit is great, that means it's good. If they say it's good, that means it's not. So they always exaggerate on the side of better than what it really is. And also, if they're asking about mobile homes and land, the reason I have them on my red flags is because these tend to be kind of the bottom feeders in terms of opportunities. They already know that they have no money, so they're looking at what they think is going to be the cheapest possible thing to buy. But of course, buying land is not an easy thing. It's a whole specialty world of what you're going to do with that land. Buying mobile homes, they don't understand that the leasing fee is usually a couple $1,000 or something ridiculous, and they're not going to qualify for that. So these are red flags. None of them are no's, none of them are don't talk to me, but just proceed with caution. So what's the right approach? Well, that kind of depends on the lead. And if it's a cold lead, so someone you know nothing about, then the best way to handle anything is to just ask questions, ask open-ended probing questions, let them talk. And some questions might be, tell me about your living situation. Are you renting? Do you own? Or, and I always like that, or that kind of, it just, then they'll start telling you a story. And when the more they talk, the more they think that you all know, you understand, you care, and you know, they like to tell you their whole story, and it gives you clues as they talk. If your current, is your current home meeting all your needs? What would make it perfect? That is going to help you find their motivation and what it is that you need to do for them. Have you given any thought to, and this is where you might start making some suggestions, to looking at a condo instead of a house, to getting qualified to be your current residence and buy a new place, you know, just whatever suggestions you want to make. These are for your clients that you think and hope are going somewhere and you're starting to gather information. Would it be helpful if I send you listings so you can see what's available and introduce you to a lender who can help you plan for the financing? These are good warm-up questions. Now, if the client's giving you red flag vibes, then I would say just ask, are you pre-approved? You know, because we don't want to waste our time too much here. Yes, I am pre-approved. Great. Do you have the letter? Who's your lender? Please give me their contact information. So in other words, you want their information. And if they say no, then you want to say, don't worry, I can introduce you to someone who's great. In fact, my lender specializes in fill in the blanks. Yeah, credit issues, first time home buyers, you know, move up clients, luxury buyers, whatever you need them to specialize in, they will. Can I give you her contact info and have her call you for an exploratory conversation? She'll let me know when you're ready to buy and look at houses. If this is a warm lead and you're engaging in a conversation with them, I highly recommend that you use a tool that I have used for years to capture their information. And by the way, I'm going to pass all these around and ask you to sign up so that I can send you my slides and my stuff. The tool that I'm referring to is on the top, but take one of everything. But on that tool, you're going to ask your basic questions that you need to, I call it a prospector, your standard questions that you need to start getting information, more information about the client, like, well, what location, how many bedrooms, what, you know, what kinds of amenities do you need to have? Do you want a pool, you know, whatever, those kinds of things. You can also make all your notes on this piece of paper. You can ask, make sure you don't forget to ask questions that are important. And you want to record everything in your CRM. Does everyone use a CRM here?
Yeah.
Yes.
You should, everybody,
Yeah.
I cannot sing the praises enough of using a CRM because it keeps you organized and it keeps your notes for you, and it will remind you when you need to make calls. So you've now got a client who you're ready to hand off to the lender. And the best way to do it, this is what a handoff looks like. A three-way email or text or phone call. And you can say, John and Mary, I'd like to introduce you to I put amazing. Feel free. I think those always sound better to my amazing lender, Cindy. She'll help you with your specific situation so you can move forward and buy it. So this is the perfect verbiage to make that introduction. And you are going to get these slides, by the way. And for those of you who are on Zoom, just email me after the class and I'll send you all the stuff. The tagline I want everybody to memorize here is, my lender specializes in debt. She works with people in all stages of the planning process. Can I give her your contact info and have her call you? I think it's important to say she works with people in all stages of the planning process, because you're gonna run into so many people who are very early stages, who haven't really thought about it, who don't really wanna, move forward and get their credit pulled, and stuff like that, who think that they're not ready, but the sooner we get it in our pipeline, the sooner we can find out, what they need to qualify. So here's what happens. What happens behind the scenes. Once you send a client to me, I'm gonna ask them general questions and get their stories. Very similar to use the prospector tool, like you guys are saying, it's like lender stuff. I'm gonna send them a link to my online application, and I'm gonna send them a list of documents that I need to pre-qualify them. And I'm gonna follow my sales process until I get the application back. And once I get the application in, I'm gonna pre-approve it. We're gonna give them a game plan if I can't.
I just have a question on your sales process, to get back. I've had experiences sending plenty of people to the lender, and they don't keep back with a complete application or approval or an update.
Right,
I call them,
yeah,
they're like, oh, well, I had trouble with this, or whatever the case may be, then I have to try to get the lender to try to get it complete. And so I'm just curious of what your follow-up process is.
I wish that's where I paid you for that, because that's the perfect segue. I think 99% of my peers out there are really shitty at following up with agents and with the partners and telling them what the source of what's happening with that referral. So that's why my process is.
Oh,
So once you give me the lead, I'm gonna call them immediately, of course. But then, after I send them the application and the link, I'm gonna ask 3 to 4 days later, I haven't gotten it back from them, I'm gonna call them and I'm gonna say, hey, just checking to see, did you get my email? I haven't gotten your application yet. I wanna make sure it didn't go into spam. Let me know, And then, if they still, but this is where if they picked up, it's always oh, I've been busy. So then, okay, no problem. When do you think you're gonna get it done? And then they'll tell me. If they don't pick up, I've left the message. Then if a week has gone by and I still don't have anything, then I'm gonna resend that needs list. I'm gonna say, hey, just putting it back up on the top of your email pile. I wanna make sure you don't, miss a chance to get this up to me. Still no response. I wait another week and then I call and I literally say, okay, I'm gonna guess that you are either too busy or this is not a priority or something has changed. So I'm not gonna bother you. I'm not gonna continue to bother you, but please do let me know. If there's an update, something I need to know, please call me. But otherwise, I'm here when you're ready. And then 2 weeks later, I start to drip on them with emails. And during that drip, I'm gonna call them in 6 months, 9 months, and then a year. Now, the reason I'm telling you exactly what my process is for two reasons. One is I want you to know I have one, and I want you to know what it looks like. I think it's really important because this isn't just something I kind of pulled out of my back pocket. This is something I did research on, and I figured out these are the best intervals and the best ways. I'm hitting them by phone, by email, by text. I'm doing it different ways and in different intervals too. I don't want to be a pest, but I want to be persistent and I want to really give them an opportunity. So this has worked for me. I'm not opposed to doing more, but and also during this process, I'm gonna let you guys know. And certainly, if you're gonna know if I paid her and I got their application, you're gonna find out. I typically copy you when I send you the application, and then I'll definitely copy you when I give the pre-approval out. But at any point during these, say, first critical 3 weeks, if you haven't heard from me for some reason, feel free to ask, but also feel free to call the client. And because the chances are I don't have their stuff, And I'm chasing it, so if we can team that way, that'd be best. Okay, some special considerations, once I do get the application in, or even when I'm just talking to them. I like to ask them about these things. Are you a first-time home buyer? Are you self-employed? Are you a veteran? Are you recently divorced? Are you a senior, 55 or older? Do you have a current residence that you're living that they own? Do you have any co-borrowers or gift funds available? Are you foreign national, or do you have an ITIN? Are you an investor? All of these things are important because they completely dictate how I'm gonna go after them, what kind of loan products, and what are gonna be the best solutions for them. So if somebody, for example, who is an investor is calling me and just saying, what's the rate? Well, it doesn't, if you think I'm gonna quote you owner occupied rates and you're gonna try to get those, it ain't gonna happen, unless there's some really good story that I can manage to sneak you into one, but which I will. Okay, normal considerations. These are the 4 buckets that we look at with any situation, any client. We look at their income, and the first thing I ask myself is, can I go full doc, or do I need to do something creative? I ask about their assets, so how much do they have available for closing costs and down payment? Are there any reserves or IRAs? I think a lot of first-time home buyers, for example, might have company 401k plans that can have significant balances, and they don't even realize that they can borrow against that to buy their first home.
No penalty?
Pardon?
If you borrow, no penalty?
No, no penalty. I mean, it's all dependent on the plan itself,
Yeah.
but 99% of them are completely fine to do that. There's seniors, for example, who may have lots of cash, but they don't have any income or very little income. It doesn't matter. If they have IRA accounts, I can do a distribution from their IRA to qualify them. So there's all kinds of things I can do with cash and why it's important to know. And I'll tell you about 2 deals I'm just in the process of working on now. One had down payment, so I was able to actually get them into a great grant program with a nice discounted rate. The other one has no down payment whatsoever, so I put them in a 0 down, down payment assistance program. They qualify for a lot less house, needless to say, but they still qualify for something. So, as far as credit goes, this is really important. If their situation is questionable, I'm always going to start with just a soft pull. That doesn't show up on their records. It doesn't show up at all as any kind of credit inquiry. If it looks good, and then I'm going to do a hard pull.
What does
Do
it
you-
mean?
Do you,
Mm.
do you give them,
Hmm?
like an indication before you do a hard pull? Because my question, is,
Yes.
some of my market says that, yeah, you can get a pre-approval now without it affecting your score. So let's say I send you this client that thinks that that's the case, and you can get that to them. Will you inform them before you do a hard pull?
So you can always get a pre-qualification without getting their credit pulled. You can never get a pre-approval without it. So if somebody is coming to me, and this will all be pretty much figured out during that first initial conversation with me, like it's like an interview. And if it's at all questionable, I'll come right out and say, do I think she can pull their credit? But otherwise, if I can tell they want the pre-approval, they expect it, then I may not check and see, they filled out the application says when they're filling it out, do we have permission?
Oh,
And they say, yeah, so, I'm not gonna question it, but if they look iffy, I'm not gonna pull their credit, I'm gonna do a softball. Because I don't like to do that to people. But it's important to know too, because all of these fence sitters who don't want to make the move yet, who don't want to check and get things started, it's good for you to know that I will and can do a softball. As far as their debts, if I find somebody who's got a lot of debts, I start asking questions about whether they can shift some of those debts or whether we can take a borrower off. add somebody, add a co-borrower on. We can pay off debts through escrow, that helps a lot sometimes, so there's a lot of tricks that we can do. But these are the four main buckets that we look at whenever we are analyzing loans. Yes.
Before you have, certain lenders have different qualifications that they like to give you before they, like an income amount, minimum income amount, or minimum credit score, minimum obviously 2-year work history.
Right.
So I work with a lender that, sometimes makes me happy. I'm not gonna lie. But do you have like a minimum, like, don't send them to me if they're only making $50,000.
Send me anything in that. Because I'm gonna find out in my conversation with them the answers to those questions. And it's gonna come out. I work with people in all stages of the planning process, so that means that you may not be anywhere near ready. It's not gonna take a lot of my time. I'm gonna know that ahead of time, and I'm gonna treat it accordingly. Gonna devote, enough of time to get them to the next step. And that's
Give them a plan.
Yeah. exactly. So here's the hierarchy of loan options, and this is really all about price more than anything. So if I can put somebody into a full doc program, they're going into a full doc program because they're gonna get the best terms that way. If there are some things funky going on, like they only had one good tax year, or they have a bunch of assets, no income, they have IRA accounts, they're a veteran, they're ITIN, whatever the funky cases might be, then I go to the next level down. These are usually a little bit higher priced, but there are definitely programs available. And if they're self-employed, but they don't show income on their tax returns, then I'm gonna look at bank statements, non-QM, which is non-qualified loan options. And if they have a problem showing any sort of income at all, then there's two programs that are available. If it's an investor program, an investment property, there's something called a DSCR, debt service coverage ratio, where you basically just look at the housing expense compared to the rental income, and if that's sufficient, you're in. Otherwise, there's something called a community loan program, and that's for primary residences. And this one, you just need good credit and you need a down payment, about 20% down. And you can get that without showing any income. Did you have a question? No. And then for those who it might be applicable to, there's also reverse mortgages. So if you're 55 or older, and especially if you're leaving a house with a lot of equity, and you want to buy a new house and you want to put that big, huge down payment down and get the rest mortgage free, then this is a good option to explore. So the pre-approval. So when I do pre-approve somebody, you're going to get copied on the pre-approval letter. Unfortunately, when there's a game plan, you're going to get copied on that too. Sometimes it might be a blind copy because it's going to have some detail in there as to why it's a game plan. So just pay attention to that. But assuming that they get pre-approved, it's now showtime for you. And then what you need to do is go out, get them a house. And if you've got scenarios that you need me to look at, let's go over scenarios. If we're talking grant program and we want to make sure that they qualify for it and need to check on the property addresses, I can do that for you. But make sure that you strategize with me on any challenges that come up, because there's workarounds for everything. And then have me call the listing side when you're writing offers, because I think that the listing agents love to get my proactive call to tell them all about the borrower who's writing an offer. Wow. And back to those pesky questions. First one being, I'd be comfortable with a $4,000 monthly payment. What will that get me? Well, this is how you're going to answer that. You know right now that the rates are in the 6 to 7% range. So you're going to look over here and you're going to see, okay, it looks like we're right around here. Let's go with this one, $339.92. It does not include this $750, which is taxes and insurance. But what this does, if you have a 20% down payment, it's gonna get you a $600,000 purchase. So this is just a quick down and dirty to help you. Like if somebody says, and I get this a lot. I'd be comfortable with the $2,000 mortgage, but they wanna look at $800,000 houses, yeah. Reality check time. And on this one. This is just an FYI, but I also have this flyer available to you, and it says, I think it's, are you still, whose mortgage are you paying? I can't remember what it's called. But in this example, if your rent is $3,500 a month, after 3 years, you have thrown away $126,000. 10 years, it's $420,000, etc. So this might be a powerful door knocking tool for local directors. And we get the question a lot: what are closing costs? How much should I budget? Those are the smart people asking those questions, because many people act like, all they need to worry about is their down payment. It's not the case. So closing costs typically are around 1 to 2%. You have a flyer there. And just my general rule of thumb is 10 grand. I mean, unless it's a luxury home, it's going to be more. Unless it's a really, cheap condo, it's going to be less, but 10, 12 grand-ish.
What factors play into closing costs?
So it's primarily title and escrow fees, so, and there's lender fees in there too, if you have to pay points, that's part of it. It also, if you have to have your taxes and insurance compounded, they have to recollect for some of those payments. So no, this is all gonna be on the other side. Yeah.
Sandy, 1 to 2% is usual. Some lenders are charging like more, and it can increase sometimes 3%.
So if they're paying a bunch of points, that can skew it, and that would be the only lender fee. And as far as on occasion, I get people who ask me for a quote, and I'll send them a detailed quote, and they say, "Oh, your closing costs are high." Well,
Right.
that doesn't count when it comes to purchases, and that's because closing costs are all determined by the seller, and they're all title and escrow. I mean, there's one line item on the closing cost that's lender fees, and that's the only item that can compare. And we're all pretty standard, to be honest, unless there's points.
I've had experiences recently that were closing costs are like 21,000, 23,000.
That's a lot.
I'm not doing
Yeah, and I would guess if they're that far off, I would look at the points first. Because they're probably trying to say, oh, I can get you 5.5 with 3 points or something like that, So that's where they're loading it.
And you can ask the lender before they send that pre-approval letter.
Yeah, you can. And at any point you can, I strongly encourage you to call the lender and, just have a conversation. And, compare numbers. I love it when if somebody ever tells me I'm high on something, I can accept that I may not be the lowest game in town, that's pretty hard to do. If I was, I'd probably not be where I am. I'd be at some bank and, it'd be a different bank every couple of, months or so. But show it to me, show me the numbers, give me the estimate, and I'll look at apples to apples and explain it to you. Another common question: are there any special programs for first-time home buyers? Well, yeah, there's actually quite a few. There's down payment assistance programs, there's grant programs that the client might qualify for, and you can say, my lender works with these, and can try to find one that works for you. My credit is not the greatest. I'm not sure there's anything that'll work for me. That's for the lender to decide. She can do a soft credit pull and advise you exactly what it will take if she can't help you. And then what's the next question? We talked about this at the team meeting. Why do you ask? Are you planning to buy or sell? And if it's their primary residence and they're planning to hold on to it for a while, it makes no difference at all what the rate is. because there's going to be opportunity to refinance down the road. So let me set you up with my loan consultant to answer that question about rates. We're not ready. And you get that a lot. My lender works with, my lender works with people in all stages of planning process. Neither of us wants to push anyone into something they're not ready for. But talking to her will get you one step closer. What is it that you're waiting for? I'm already working with someone. That's great. Can I get their information? I'd like to introduce myself and find out how much flexibility we have on the purchase price and the HOA costs. We'll want to loop them in when we find out a house that we're ready to make offers on. And all these clients who are waiting for home prices to come down, this is where you need to keep abreast of the news, make an opinion. But I actually love that. I think it was you, Chiquita, who mentioned earlier that you don't really focus on the news a lot. I'm exactly the same. I don't watch the news. I think it's depressing. I think it brings me down. I think that they focus on the negative, and I don't want that in my life. I don't want that in my aura, but I think it's good and important for us to keep an eye on the headlines. We need to kind of have a general sense as to what's going on. I think it's important to attend all the team meetings and to read all the KW emails, because they're going to tell us when there's something that's a highlight that's important. I personally really enjoy listening to podcasts when I drive. So I find that extremely helpful, and it keeps me, and podcasts are very timely. They always talk about what's happening right there, right now, and it's not old information. And then you can also subscribe to certain blogs, like there's the car market minutes, and that will give you highlights about what's going on in the news. I'm happy to send you that link if you want it. But if you know that you're meeting with one of those, like to get leads kind of clients, if you want to know, your opinion on the economy in general and stuff like that, that's when you want to read this market minutes and get the snapshot and be prepared to have an opinion. So I want to talk to you about referrals, and I want to strongly suggest that you don't go follow the rule of the 3 names. I have to give you 3 names referrals. There's an article. Did I include the article? I think I made that. Yeah, you got it. Called Who's the Idiot That Invented the 3-Name Referral Rule? That's by an attorney. And some of the things he said in there is, well, if you don't know anybody, just tell them you don't know anybody. But I have personally a better approach. I have all these attorneys and professionals in my database. And if somebody, for example, says, do you happen to know a bankruptcy attorney? I'll say, yeah, let me find out. I'll let you know. I'll look in my database. If I have a bankruptcy attorney, great. If I don't, but I have other attorneys, I'm going to put out a blast and say, does anyone know a good bankruptcy attorney? And what that does is it tells those people, those professionals, that I'm a person who makes referrals, and they're going to email me back, and they're going to say, I know so and so and so and so and so and so, and then you're going to reach out to them. Anytime your client asks you like a technical question or whatever, get information, find out what it is they need to know, and say, I'll let you know, I'll get back with you with some names. And then you APB your sphere, and then you get all these new people, you get the right, referral to give to them, and you get all these new people that you can now add to your sphere. It works like a charm. And then, of course, hopefully they'll start referring to you. And are you aware of the KW vendor list? It's on the website. Okay, it's right by, when you go into the website, it's like the first button, I think, on the right, the second button, something like that. And it says vendors. And that list is invaluable. I use it anytime I need a personal service of some sort, because, like, for example, my thermostat wasn't working. So I looked on the list and I found an HVAC guy, and I called him up and I said, hi, my name's Cindy. I work at the Keller Williams Calabasas office, and you're one of our preferred vendors. I need help. And they came right out and they helped me and they were very reasonable, so. So there's a whole bunch of people there that you can refer out. And you mentioned to the client that their KW preferred vendor makes them feel very comfortable. And it also assures they're gonna get good service and better price.
Where do you find that?
Pardon me?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it is, but I don't have my glasses. Is it over here somewhere? Not correct.
Oh, here it is, about our vendors.
Maybe that's it. No, there's a whole list. I'll find it. When I have my glasses.
Oh.
Versus the regular website.
Yeah, it's on the internet, our internal, well, where do you find the calendar? I think some of it doesn't help. I'm gonna show you after class. So I want to tell you about me. Moi. If somebody can do a loan that I can't do, don't worry, I'm gonna refer them myself, so you don't have to worry if it's something I can't do. And frankly, I don't know that there's anything I can't do, but I'm willing to say maybe someone does it better, and then I'll refer them out. If somebody wants to shop me for the cheapest deal because they're not satisfied with working for the best, I'm okay with that. Go ahead, shop me. I'm gonna kill your clients with service and with kindness, just as I know you do, and I know it's important to you. And you can count on me to follow up with them and be consistent because I have a sales process. And I'm gonna let you know where we stand with the referral because it's important, you need to know. And sometimes I'm gonna ask you, I'm gonna tag you and say, your turn, and follow up because I'm getting nowhere. And the purchase environment for renters today. Affordability is key, it's always the right time to buy a primary residence. There's so many new down payment assistance programs, they all have different variables, get guidance on it, just know that they're out there. And know that it's important for someone to get in and start looking. It's easy to move up after the first purchase, your clients just need to be flexible. Rates are temporary, there's always going to be opportunities in the future to refinance. Don't get carried away, if you can afford it, do it. Mortgage balances do shrink over time, home values and equity grow, but rent payments are forever. And I've never personally known rent to go down. I don't think it ever will. And that's it, there's one goal, many solutions. And please allow me to be your partner, strategist, advisor, I'm here to help. Yeah.